Well, hello, everybody, and welcome back. And if you are just tuning in with me for the very first time, it's so nice to meet you. And I'm really glad you're here with me today. I am your host, Heather Carey, nutritionist, chef, mom, and a woman who has been around the block with food. I want to open up about real food in relation to health, weight, and our bodies so you can make peace with what you eat. Welcome back, everybody. It's Heather. I wanted to introduce to you today Rachel Boehm, who is a dynamic life coach specializing in working with women who are single. Now, even if you are not single in the obvious sense, you may feel like you are living a single lifestyle. And that might mean your marriage is a little separated, you are shouldering all of the responsibility in your house, whatever it may feel like to you. If this resonates with you, this can be worth a listen. Nothing tastes as good as skinny feels, was her mantra growing up. And the message is that skinny was better. So we talk about that, and that rolls into a lot of talk about how women are shoulding on themselves. I should be doing this. I should be doing that. The pressure that we put on ourselves. And that leads into a lot of burnout. So I really encourage you to take a listen to this very encouraging conversation I had with Rachel and learn to hone in on your goals so you can feel really great about living life. I'm here with Rachel Boehm today, and Rachel is a nationally board certified health and wellness coach and a PhD candidate in psychology studying psychological well-being. On the one-on-one side, Rachel works primarily with single women who want to stop shoulding on themselves, ditch imposter syndrome, boost confidence, and kick ass personally and professionally at the same time. Rachel also works with business professionals, helping them become their best selves so they can live life on their terms, and helps leaders build organizations that people don't want to leave. She does all of this through personalized coaching and employee well-being, consulting using science-backed and people-proven methods. So welcome, Rachel.
Thank you, Heather. I'm excited to be here.
Great. So I know that you have a dual business, right? You work with women and you also work with corporations. Let's focus first just on your work with women. So you shared with me a bit of your story that you overcame an eating disorder that started as a, quote, healthy diet and weight loss program, which influenced the work you do with clients to help them thrive in all of their areas of life, including their relationship with food and their bodies. So why don't we just start off with that? Just tell me your story around food and how it evolved into an eating disorder.
Yeah, I mean, in a nutshell, right? I think we'll start with like the first experience, but I won't take everybody through play by play. If they want that, they can get my book. But I don't think that's why people are tuning into your podcast, is to hear my life story. But when I was 9, I distinctly remember. So that for me, that was 3rd grade. And 2, we were just starting into the like who's popular, who's not era of our lives. And two peers, 2 women, told me that the reason I couldn't be friends with them anymore, because we were friends in 2nd grade and now we weren't friends in 3rd grade, it was like day 1 of school, was because I was fat. And that was my first encounter with that word. I did not know what it meant. I just knew clearly it was bad, it was wrong, and that I was that. And so that set off decades of trying to not be fat. Because, also people should know, so I'm 41, so that means like I'm a 90s girl, right? So it was heroin chic It was,
Mm-hmm.
there's no such thing as too thinny and too thin or too skinny. And nothing tastes as good as thin feels, and fat is bad, carbs are good, and the food
Oh, yeah.
pyramid and all of the things. And everything I did, and I feel this is so true for maybe everyone, but everything I did was not because I like didn't like myself and wanted to harm myself or wanted to, like purposefully starve or whatever. It was I was trying to be healthy. I was trying to be what I thought I should be. You know, you're told, oh, if you look like this, you're healthy. If you look like that, you're not. If you look like this, you're going to get the career, the guy, the part. I was in acting and theater and film and television and all of those things, music for a long time, and that certainly is very much, at least at the time, your success is predicated on your looks in a large part. I was just gonna say, I had one job where I worked. In hindsight, probably not the best idea, but it made sense at the time. I worked for a few months at this local, like kind of weight loss program, weight loss support called the Diet Center. And I probably shouldn't have said their name, but anyways, I did. And my boss at the time asked me, so this was going into senior year, asked me what I wanted to do, like what I wanted to study in college. And I
Mm-hmm.
said, oh, I'm in musical theater. Like that's all I do. That's what I love. That's what I'm told I'm good at. And, all of these things. I'm studying film and television. And she just said, don't you have to be skinny for that? And I just said, I'm trying. I didn't have any other words, and I held it together for the rest of my shift. And I just sat in my car as I left and just cried. And so fast forward, the advice at the time was what every, health magazine, again, this is the 90s, early 2000s. We don't have what we have now. And I'm not necessarily sure that what we have now is that much better, because it depends on who you're following and what your influences are.
Right.
But all I had was, yeah, lose weight, eat this, not that, and work out 3 sets of 12. That's like the guidance for women, like sets of 8 to 12,
Right.
3 times, right? 3 days a week, and like go run. And so in this quest for like, that's not work. Like, what do I do? Okay, that's not working. What do I do? That's not working. What do I do? That's not working. Finally, a program started to work, partly because it worked and partly because I was really finally ready to actually do the work as opposed to just wanting it to have happened.
Right.
When I really dedicated to doing the work, um, I did start losing the weight. I did get to a healthy weight, and then I took it too far because I
Okay.
had the influence of the LA industry around me. And the
Mm-hmm.
thinner I got, the more I got. Until finally I realized this is not okay. There's something wrong. And it took even longer to realize what that was.
So it sounds like you are not alone. You got very influenced by just the messages of the time, which we
Yeah.
all did, right? I mean,
Yeah.
being thinner, being skinnier was better.
Right.
I mean, not, and it sometimes falls under the umbrella of like, well, it's healthier, but it's also
Right.
better to get a man, or better to win an acting career, or right. There's all
Right.
sorts of advantages to being really thin. And
Right.
we all know that that's not necessarily the case, but it is certainly the driver for so many women.
Yeah. And the literature shows that dieting leads, more often than not, leads to unhealthy behaviors. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and I'm not saying that everybody that starts a diet, ends up with an eating disorder. That is not at all what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is that there is a huge risk there for not only like, the hashtag diets fail, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
but they don't work, you yo-yo, but that they can thwart your relationship with food in a
Mm-hmm.
negative way, right? So now you don't see an apple, you see 80 calories, you see this many macros, you see this many points, you see this many whatever you're counting. And for some
Exactly.
people, tracking and counting is great. It's just who it's not just the tool, right? It's who's using it and in what way, and all of that. So I don't want to just bash the tools, but but there's a risk there.
Right. I mean, dieting, I think, just gets you, at least for my clients, dieting gets you into a cycle that you almost can't get out of, because you are either on the diet or you are off the diet. You don't know how to eat after a while, right? You're dieting and losing weight. It's unsustainable, because who can sustain something like so restrictive? Then you go off the diet and you gain weight back, and then you have to go, and then you feel bad for yourself, and you feel, like, what am I doing wrong? And then you go back on the diet, and it's just a whirlwind of this yo-yo and up and down kind of thing. And can it lead to eating disorders? Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I have a lot of women, I think, who are even older than you, who are still just battling with that. And I think there is definitely eating disorders hidden underneath that, because they don't know how to eat. And it's a control thing. Being on a diet is like, you can be in control.
Yeah. And it's like, if nothing else, I can control this. And I think that was part of it too. And so when I went to therapy, one of the things that my therapist said was, so what I'm hearing you say is that you didn't feel safe, and no one had light bulb moment.
Mm-hmm.
Because when I first, and I talk about this in my book too, but like when I first went to therapy, I was like, it's about the food. It's just about the food. Like, that's all I thought. It was like, it's about my relationship with food, right?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know where I was on the disordered eating continuum. And I'm sure you've talked with your clients about that. And I think it's important for everyone to know, it's not like you're either an eating disorder person or you're not. It's like, there's a continuum that at some point, then you're clinical. But I think that was part of my problem too, is when we talk about, say, for example, anorexia, those images, I didn't see myself in that image, because all we see is somebody who's like 50 pounds or whatever.
Exactly.
Right? We don't see the person who's looks like they're in a healthy weight. They're able to work out, they're not like in a facility, right? We don't see the person that looks like our best friend on the street.
Exactly.
And that's part of the problem.
Yes, that is a huge part of the problem, I think. But it sounds like you recognize something, that when this control over food, this obsession with food, right?
Yeah, it was a safety mechanism. And so when I learned to start I was about to say controlling that, but when I started learning how to be okay with feeling, I don't know what's going to happen, but I can trust myself, right? My favorite saying even now is from Susan Jeffers, and it's, whatever happens, I'll handle it. And when you can learn to do that, and it's okay, you can just learn to be uncomfortable with uncomfortability.
Yes, exactly. And I think even more importantly, just being uncomfortable with not doing it perfectly, not eating perfectly all the time, maybe enjoying food, maybe just saying screw it for today, or I'm on vacation, and and knowing that you can just get yourself back on track, but you're not going to blow everything
combust.
Combust and and fail. And so when do you feel that you had sort of a turning point? Was it going to therapy? Was it something else that happened with you?
Yeah, I mean, so I had this kind of realization. It was like steady and then fast, as things always are, right? It's like the seeds are planted, and then suddenly it's like, wow, okay, yeah, I'm actually ready to do something about this. And so that kind of aha was there, and then therapy, and then years later, when I decided to switch careers again and move more into the health and wellness space. And long story short, the reason I decided to build a coaching practice is because I wanted to be the resource for people that I didn't have. And the more I learned about not just myself, but through professional development, through courses, it's all life. It's not just the food, right? As we were talking about, it's your sense of, it's, what is the food meaning to you, or what is the control of that food meaning, right? If your sleep affects your cravings, which affects your anxiety, which affects you, are you going to go get that calmness from a quick walk outside the block or just some like sunlight exposure? Or are you going to get it from a bag of Oreos, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
your stress, your sleep, what your culture is, everything affects everything else. And so it was really important to me to build this kind of integrated coaching practice where we do look at everything.
Mm-hmm. Right. It isn't just about the food, but some people, like I grew up, for example, like food was love, like you're having a bad day.
Yeah.
Let's go to the candy store. Like you're having, like let's have a cookie.
Yeah.
So there's a huge association for me to, right. Like I'm in
Absolutely.
discomfort. I'm tired, like let's soothe it with food. And there are other ways to do that and other
Yeah.
tools that you can develop. And it sounds like that's what you do with your clients, because it's not just all about the food, but some people then, right, for some people, it is about, they do lean back on food in a
Yeah.
variety of different ways.
Well, I think it's the most important thing is building that awareness, because
Yes.
I don't want someone to go, oh, I don't want to work with somebody like that because, don't you dare take my, I don't know, my glass of wine or my like, frozen yogurt treat. Like, it's not about saying that like those are bad and you can't have them and it's wrong.
Right. Of course.
It's about saying like, hey, FYI, like becoming aware, like, oh, this is how I use this. This is why I want this. So that you can make that decision more rationally
Mm-hmm.
and know like, okay, if I'm going to do it, cool. I'm going to account for it in some other way. Or do I really want that? Yeah, today actually that is my treat. I am choosing that with intention. And then the next time it's like, actually, I kind of just crave it because I'm used to craving it. Maybe instead I want to treat myself with coffee with friends or a walk in the park. And so it's just really building awareness and intentionality.
Yeah, I think awareness is absolutely the first key step, because you can walk around just eating mindlessly, without any awareness of what you were doing. It's like when you have a
Mm-hmm.
association that every night at 9 o'clock, your reward is I'm going to go sit down in front of that TV and with
Yeah,
a half gallon of ice cream. I mean, you can do that without even thinking twice about it. It's just like blink,
absolutely.
like it just, and I think that to build awareness skills so you can do things with intention, even if you do sit down and have the ice cream, just know that you are doing it and then give yourself
Exactly.
permission to do it. But I think the awareness and like having like a pause, is this really what I want to be doing right now? I mean, that's how at least how
Mm-hmm.
I work with my clients, is just, yeah, awareness
Same.
is
Yeah.
key, because we can be very, very mindless eaters. And I think
Yeah,
the
absolutely.
mindfulness is everything when it comes to,
Absolutely. Yes, agreed.
just healthy eating and just in eating with intention. Tell me a little bit more about who you work with. I know you said that you work mostly with single women. Is there a reason behind working with single women versus just all women, or?
Yeah, no, I really appreciate that you asked that question because it was really hard for me to make that decision. And I should preface by saying, I do have clients that are married, so it's not like a hard and fast, but it's one I kind of observed that there was one type of person in particular that was kind of drawn towards me and that we really had a solid coaching relationship with. And
Mhm.
it's really that person that feels single more than is like demographically like, yes, I am not married.
Mm.
So and by feel, I mean, yeah, maybe they're married, maybe even the relationship is awesome, but because of who they are as a person, it's all on them. They're the ones that are like, I got it all. I gotta do this. I gotta do this. I gotta do this. Like, what are you talking about? Ask for help. They're the driven kind of stereotypical type A. So maybe they're
Mhm.
single. And so then like, yes, it is all on them. Or
Mhm.
the person that's like, I don't ask for help, like you're gonna do it wrong. I need to prove myself, or if I let go, I have all these balls spinning. So if I let go of one, I'm gonna drop them all. So I just need to do it.
Mm. Yep.
Um, or they feel alone in their relationship and they would love that support, but they don't feel
Mhm.
like they're gonna get it. And so that's why it's all on them. And
Mhm.
so, if I have gentlemen come to me and it's a good fit and we work together. Like I said, I have married people, unmarried people, divorced, widowed. If it's a good fit, it's a good fit. But in terms
Mhm.
of, when my marketing hat is on as a business owner, that's kind of the content I put out and the type of
Mhm.
individual that I'm typically targeting.
some women do shoulder so much that they do feel like they are single, that they are carrying the weight of the world, right? I mean, they're
Yeah.
carrying everything. They're running their households. They're raising the kids. They're getting dinner on the table. They're doing all of it. And so they are almost like in a single relationship, and
Yeah. And
with their responsibility. And I know that you said that you want to get women to stop shooting all over themselves, which just reminded me
yeah.
when you said, like some women might be in relationships, but they are feeling like they are like a single woman carrying all of this stuff. And I think that goes along with like, maybe how we were raised. I should be working, raising the kids. I get dinner on the table. I run the household, right? I mean, that's how I think of
Yeah.
shoulds, and I should
Yeah.
be really happy doing it all too. So
Exactly. Yeah. This is what I'm told I should want. So shouldn't I want this? And this is what I thought I wanted. Why am I not happy? And I should also, the cake needs to be Pinterest perfect, and the suit needs to be, all of the shoulds, all of the labels, all the things that we're told we're supposed to want that we even thought
hmm
we wanted.
hmm
And
hmm
now we're like, oh shit. But like, don't let anybody see this questioning because I should, you know? And the thing is, I think very few people are talking about this. Now, there are a lot of people talking about kind of quote work life balance, which is one of my least favorite terms, more
hmm
because it's all life, not because they don't believe in balance. I think it's, personal and professional, like work and not work. But, anyways, that's another hill to die on.
Yeah, I know what you
But
mean
there's a
though.
lot of,
I can't stand that
yeah,
phrase either,
it
work-life
drives me
balance. Because I'm like, what
crazy.
does that mean? Like work-life balance.
Yeah,
Like
it's
I
all
should,
life.
well, it goes into that should. I should
Yeah,
feel like I can juggle this and do this, and like my life is complete and I have work,
exactly.
and I know I agree with you. It just
Yeah.
it makes
It's
me a little
and
crazy
and
too.
there's certainly those messages out there, right? The work life stuff, but it's still unfortunately synonymous with family friendly, and that leaves a lot of people out, right? So that leaves out married people that have no kids, the dinks, right? Dual income, no kids. It leaves
hmm
out single income, married, no kids. It leaves out singles that do not have children,
hmm
um, or a partner. So it and this is, venturing towards the corporate side, but that's another reason why I wanted to work with singles, because I've been single most of my life. And I have experienced a lot of that too, right? Where it's like, and every Hallmark movie shows it, right? Like
hmm
every Christmas Hallmark movie shows it, right? Like, oh, poor, poor person, totally single, maybe with a cat, and then
hmm
is kind of saved at the end by the farmer in shining like flannel. I don't know,
Right.
but and then she has work life balance because she doesn't live in corporate America anymore. I don't know.
hmm
But yeah, so that was another reason to your question about why singles, is that I just felt like people weren't really serving them.
Yeah, I can definitely see that there must be, you're single, and so you should be wanting to find a husband or a wife or a partner. You should want to have children. You should
Mhm.
you should
Be willing to stay late at work and cover for the people that have to leave for their kids, right? And
right.
not be
Yeah,
mad
you're
about
flexible
it.
with your time, right? I mean, you have
Yeah, you
time,
don't
you have
have
more
anything
time.
else to do. Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
When women are like shooting all over themselves, what are some of the key things that you tell them? How do you redirect their thinking around this?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's so, in the details, like if we were to, I won't get nitty gritty, right? Because that's, I'm sure, like with you, right, that this starts to become very personalized to the client or the patient, but it's asking powerful questions and being a
Mm-hmm.
listener. And the
Mm-hmm.
thing with coaching, if people aren't familiar, it's not like a consultant where the consultant's like, here's the problem, here's what you're gonna do, here's how you fix it, here's the plan.
Mm-hmm.
It's honoring the client's autonomy. So every client is an expert in their own life. There's just a lot of noise, right? I liken it to hiking in a forest, like with a lot of fog.
Mm-hmm.
And you really just need someone to help you clear the fog, double check the compass, maybe give you a few more tools, and then just kind of like walk with you
Mm-hmm.
on the way so you can find your way back to your car and get home.
Right.
Um, or just to beat that analogy down.
Yeah.
So with a client, it's asking, it's motivational interviewing. It's asking, well, why is that important to you? Why do you
Hmm.
feel like that is important to you? And I love the 5 whys questions or exercise because it peels that back for
Mm.
people. Like,
Can you
why do
share
you,
that?
yeah. Yeah. So say, for example, I'm trying to think of a, for instance, but so say, for example, somebody's like, well, I want to lose weight. Well, that's a potentially awesome goal. I don't know.
Hmm.
That's a very unclear goal, right? So, because you could go down the like, oh, well, why and by how much and by when. But first, I would say, why is that important to you? And they might say, oh, because I'm not going to go down the rabbit hole of like, oh, I have a reunion coming up, right? But like,
Hmm.
oh, I don't know, like I want to fit into this summer clothes. I had this dress in my closet and I really thought I still fit into it and I don't. Like, oh, okay. Like, what is it about that dress? Like, what is it about fitting into the summer clothes that excites you or is important to you? I go,
Hmm.
well, and so you kind of ask, and you don't always have to ask it 5 times because people reveal when they reveal. But basically, by the fifth why, you've gotten down to not that the goal is I want to lose weight, but the goal is I want to feel confident in my body again. I don't recognize who I am, or I want a role model for my kids. Right. So you could say the thing like, why is getting promoted so important to you? I want to show my kids that or I want to be able to have the flexibility of that position to take care of my family or my parents or whatever. And so the reason that's important is because one, it allows the goal to change, like that surface level goal.
Hmm.
Because even like with weight loss, like you might actually not lose weight, but because you're losing fat, gaining muscle, etc., like the weight may not fluctuate the way you think it does, but you're happy, you actually met the goal you had. Same
Right.
thing, it may not be the promotion, it might be a different position, or it might be entrepreneurship, or it might be something else that's actually going to satisfy the drive, the motivation. That's not the surface level goal that you thought. And
Yeah.
so, really drilling down.
I think having your why and really focusing on that why, I mean, when I work with my clients, is that's the thing that's going to keep you moving ahead, right? When things feel like I'm not into this anymore. I don't want to
Yeah,
that it's that to keep that why you're doing it. But I love that like honing in on like the 5 whys and to get really, really very specific and clear rather than when it starts to sound like I'm going to a wedding and I need to lose 20 pounds. That's usually not enough of a motivation
yeah.
to, or maybe you'll lose the weight, and then
But
you'll
then what?
probably, yeah, right. And then what? Or you'll gain it back afterwards because you've done something drastic. But yeah, to really focus in on a very specific thing. Maybe it has to do with your kids, your family, something so important to you that it will keep
Yeah,
you moving forward. Yeah, I love that.
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, that's one of my favorite exercises. And then I also always start clients with the wheel of life, which,
Mm,
and there's kind of the exercise is not directly on my website, but the visual of the wheel is, and it shows the 8 dimensions of well-being, which
hmm.
include physical, mental, emotional, etc. That way they can kind of rate where they're at now on a scale of 0 to 10 for each dimension. And
Hmm.
then if you look at it, and so say like one is in, no one is ever a 10, and that's totally common and normal and fine, right?
Hmm.
Like 10 is, perfection is not where we're going here, right? But like, could we get you from a 5 to a 7?
Hmm.
Could we get, so if say you're a 7 in one and a 4 in another and a 3, so if you imagine this like wonky, uneven wheel, then the question is how, if that was a real wheel, how well would it roll? And
Hmm.
then that's kind of like, oh yeah, so to wheel well, you want them at least as even as possible, right?
Hmm.
How do we inflate that tire where it needs to be inflated? But that
Hmm.
also helps them see the interconnectedness of these various elements, which brings us to our earlier conversation of how everything is intertwined.
Yeah, I love the wheel of life. I think it gives such, if you're, especially if you're a visual person, it gives such a good graphic of, oh wow, I'm really deficient in my social life,
Right.
or whatever it, whatever,
Yeah.
wherever you can see it. And I think it's a really great way to then focus on what you can work on rather than I have to work on everything. I think that people are really falling into like a lot of burnout. Like, what is burnout? Like, really, is it
Yeah.
burnout with trying to balance all of this stuff and then constantly failing because work-life balance is really like a meaningless term?
Yeah. I mean, so we could get like really scholarly here for a second, which I
Mhm.
won't do. Um,
You can.
but I will. Okay. Well, I'll just say like burnout technically is just the workplace experience.
Hmm.
There is a push for it to be like, no, like moms, dads, the parent, even if they don't quote work outside the home, they can experience parent burnout, right? So there's a push to make it more of just this, the kind of the street talk definition of it, where it's like, oh my God, I'm exhausted, I'm stressed, I'm burnt out.
Hmm.
But technically, burnout is when you experience three things simultaneously for an extended period of time. And that includes cynicism. So you're starting to go like, what's the point of this job? Right? It's like, take this job and shove it. Like, why am I
Hmm.
here? I'm not very good. You start doubting yourself. I'm not even good at this anymore. Like, why am I even bothering? And exhaustion. And
Hmm.
it's an extreme stress response. So if you're stressed, you're stressed, you're stressed. If you don't take care of that chronic negative stress, then you will get burnt out. And then that can lead to mental health issues, physical health issues, in bed for whatever, however many days, you just can't. Interestingly, some people though, when they're burnt out, they go harder. The way burnout affects you can
Oh,
actually make
yeah.
you like, you don't even realize it. So you're like, I'm so burnt out. You don't even realize it. And you're going like 0 to 100. And that's actually one of the problems too, is that because you don't recognize it, it almost becomes this like adrenaline thing and you just keep going.
Oh, yeah.
And that, as opposed to like when you're like say you have the flu, right? It's like, nope, can't today, can't adult today. I got the flu. You just physically can't. Like the
Hmm.
opposite happens. And so it's harder for you to step in, intervene, and recover.
Hmm.
And so it really does start to take outside people to say like, hey, I think there's a problem. Get some
Well,
help here.
resting, I mean, especially for women, I mean, resting is,
No, terrible.
taboo.
How dare you?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
how dare
How
you?
dare you say that, like, I need a day off, or I'm just feeling like I need a mental health
Right.
day, and I should be all the
Doing.
things I should be doing to the point of like collapse almost sometimes. It's the badge of
Yeah.
honor. I mean, at least, I think with career and motherhood and, like all of that lumped in together. And yeah,
Yeah.
it
I
can lead to
mean,
a lot of burnout. I mean, that reminds me of just being on diets too. I mean, like
yeah.
there's a whole cycle of burnout on diets. I mean, there's only so much you can
Yeah.
take of being on you can tough it
It's
out for 30 days on a diet, you lose some weight, but then you can go into total burnout with it because you feel like you can't
absolutely.
keep it up. It's impossible to maintain, and
Yeah.
I should be able to stick with this, and then it's
Hmm.
just impossible, and then you get like exhausted, you're like mentally exhausted physically.
Mentally and physically and emotionally. And yeah. The same is true for exercise too, right? Like you can burn yourself out and
Hmm.
get an exercise addiction, right? I think to your point of like, what is causing this? What is contributing this? I mean, the cause is multifactorial. Depends. I don't want to try to say like what is the primary cause for somebody, but generally speaking, it's this living in extremes. And I wanted to say too, I think it's important that people refill themselves in different ways. So I don't want someone to hear this and think like, but I'm not a nap person, for example. Like I don't, and most of the time I'm not either, right?
Hmm.
Like I think I've had like 1 or 2 naps this year. And that was like strategically done because I was doing a podcast in Australia. Right. So
Hmm.
like I purposefully like was trying to make sure I didn't like lose all my sleep so I could function the next day.
Right.
Um, but like I'm not a nap person. And so it doesn't mean like you have to avoid burnout, you have to quit your life and go move into a yurt, or you have to like nap and the opposite of doing is nothing. It just means like if the way you refill is taking a walk or doing a walking meditation or exercise in like a healthy way, right? That is self-care too. It
Hmm.
doesn't have to be just all or nothing, which is to our point about this extremes. Because even just sitting around doing absolutely nothing, that could be an extreme. And so I don't like, that's not what we mean. And so you have to find the self-care practice that works for you, as long as it
Right.
truly is self-care.
Yes, exactly. I mean, I think asking yourself every day, what do I need today? What do I need? Where is my energy at?
I love that.
Where am I? Where's my focus going to be? And wrapping it around self-care. Because if we do get ourselves into the chronic burnout, and I want to relate this just even back to food and like diets, but what do I need for my nourishment today? Because sometimes it's breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and sometimes it's breakfast, lunch, dinner, and 2 snacks, and it's okay.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that
Yeah.
every day is going to be breakfast, lunch, dinner, 2 snacks, and a dessert. I mean, it's just checking in, I think, with, what do I need for myself today?
Yes, I love that so much. It reminds me of the kind of metaphor with bamboo. Like the reason bamboo is resilient and thrives is because it's not too rigid and it's not too flexible, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's rigid enough to, or it's strong enough to grow straight, grow strong, but it's flexible enough to bend with the wind.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that so much because I feel like that's what we need to be, and that we need to role model for ourselves and others is like, okay, for the most part, I got my plan, right? But it's loose. Like I can, I can throw what the day throws at me, right? Going back to that Susan Jeffers quote, whatever happens,
Mm-hmm.
I'll handle it.
Rachel, thank you so much. This has been a fantastic talk. And I know, we've covered a lot. We've talked about your
Yeah.
story, just, and your foundation around like diets and eating disorders and how that's maybe fallen, into your work with one-on-one, with women who are mostly single. And I think this has been like really important, information, and it's going to be great for my listeners. But where can people find you, and how do you work with women one-on-one? Or you work with men
Yeah.
too, right?
No.
I mean, I don't want to, I keep saying
Yeah.
women,
Yeah.
but
It
how,
is primarily women, but anybody that feels a connection, reach out to me because I always do a complimentary discovery call. And
Mhm.
if I'm the right fit for you, great. If I'm not the right fit for you, I have a really wonderful referral network and I can help you. I will help you the best I can find that person. So if you're curious, just feel free to reach out and we'll go from there. I think the easiest is my website. It's rachboehm.com, and everything, free resources, the link to schedule, all my socials, it's all on that website.
Okay, and I will definitely put that link in my show notes so people
Perfect. Thank you.
can reach you that way. Is there any other takeaways, any last things, you can think of just to tell women, or even if you want to speak on?
Anyone. I think so. This is true for anyone. I think the most important thing that I help my clients kind of discover or realize is that rather than an all or nothing approach, take an all or something approach.
Mhm.
So if you can't, you may not be able to get the whole workout in, or you may not be able to meal prep for every day or whatever, right? But you could do a couple minutes. You could do 1 or 2, right? So when in doubt, like don't just throw the whole thing out. Just do a little bit. A little is better than nothing.
I love that. And yeah, I think to remember that, especially women, that we are doing our best, right? We are just
Yes,
always
you really are.
doing the best that we can. And that matters for everything, but not too great. We don't need to go to
Yeah,
extremes. And it doesn't mean that if you just do a little bit one day that you're going to fail and you're never going to be able to catch up. Or so I think that's a
exactly.
great
Because by
takeaway.
taking that down, by dialing it down, you'll be able to dial it back up tomorrow.
Exactly. Right. Right. And if we dial it too far, then that's where you get into burnout, and you don't want to do it again. So,
Exactly.
well, Rachel, thank you so much. This has been fantastic.
Thank you.
And I will speak to you soon.
Sounds great. Thanks, Heather.
And as always, if you loved this podcast, please consider gifting me with a 5-star review. It is so helpful for me to get the word out on real eating, our real bodies, and real food stories. Thank you so much and have a great week. Bye for now.